everybody. So I guess I'm going to close the show tonight. I just want to say thank you to Mackenzie once again. She was a great editor. She did a great job. And thank you to Gary. And I'm really excited for next year. Lisa and I have already started planning, and I think we're going to do really good things, and it's going to be exciting. So, yes, we're going to be awesome. Okay, so I read this story a couple of times. I read 2 parts of it. It's 3 parts now. Back in like October or November at a reading. I got a lot of laughs, and I wasn't expecting that, so I kind of kept with it. And I was like, hey, I can write funny stories, apparently. But this is called Best Friends and First Loves. It came from a prompt in Dr. and Mrs. Vanderslice's class about writing about your first crush, so that should tell you something. Part 1, moms aren't supposed to be naked. When I was younger, I used to have to roll out of bed and stand on my tippy toes to see out the window over the big prickly bushes outside. But now I have a big kid bed, so I just roll over and peer out the blinds. When Caitlin comes over for sleepovers, we like to peek out the window at exactly 7:53 p.m. because Kyle has to be home by 8, and I love Kyle. Last week, we discovered something totally disgusting. We call her Mrs. Roly-Poly. She's very different from the people who normally live on our street. Her son is very sexy, at least that's what Caitlin says, but I think he's creepy. He walks out to his car in the middle of the night after dark, sometimes at 10 or 11, and he goes places. We guess he's selling some sort of drugs or getting drunk. He must be a drug dealer, right, if he's living with his mom and leaving after bedtime? Mrs. Roly-Poly has the bedroom in the front of the house. This is odd because in every other house on our street, the children get the front windows, but Mrs. Roly-Poly has the room with the pretty front windows. The windows are long and her room is deep. She likes to turn the lights on every night around 7:30 or 8 and take off her clothes. That's why we call her Mrs. Roly-Poly. She wears these silky new bras. Caitlin said if she ever buys one of those to slap her silly, then make her get a pretty one. Not that either of us are wearing bras yet, but we hope to someday. The bras are shiny, and her underwear is dull like the color of her skin. She usually sits on her bed for a moment, which is fine, but then she starts walking around her house, naked, with a boy living there. What kind of sickness does she have? We thought about telling my dad, but we decided he did not need to see Mrs. Roly-Poly all naked. Caitlin and I have sleepovers every weekend at my house, and every time we pretend to sing the Spice Girls song on my karaoke machine while staring out the window to see if Mrs. Roly-Poly is naked again. Tonight we were pretending to be the different Spice Girls with my sister Becky and her best friend Lizzie. They were arguing over who got to be baby and who got to be posh. No one was scary. No one ever wanted to be Scary Spice. Caitlin and I thought it would end the argument if we let them peek out the window. That's when I exposed my little sister to something really bad. Instead of the naked lady, which we thought would be funny, it was her creepy son in his panties dancing around the room with the long windows. At least I think they were panties because they don't look like Daddy's boxers. They just look more like Mommy's panties. You know, the white cotton ones. Becky and Lizzie screamed and then we all laughed really hard. That's when my dad walked in to see what we were doing. When he looked out the window, he didn't see the kid. He just saw a very naked Mrs. Roly-Poly singing into her hairbrush. He wasn't too happy with Mrs. Roly-Poly. He walked out the door and across the street, so we cracked open the window just a bit to hear what he was saying. Our bodies pressed to the floor underneath the bed and our ears against the screen in the window. We thought he was going to yell and scream at the weird lady who doesn't wear any clothes. But we were wrong. Ma'am, do you think you could close your blinds from now on? My daughters and their friends find you quite amusing, but I don't think you want them staring at you. We could see the woman, now wrapped in a robe, through the cracks in the bushes. She was bright red and apologizing to my father. She looked embarrassed. She rushed in and shut the curtains. We're not sure how many other people saw Mrs. Roly-Poly naked, but she now buys the most Girl Scout cookies from me. Part 2 is called The Chase. Today, after school, my mom let Caitlin come over to play. Allison lives down the street and around the corner, so we walked over to her house to ask if her and Sarah wanted to play with us. The best part about Allison's house is that it's across the street and a couple houses over from Kyle's house. Caitlin walked ahead of me. She always walks faster than me. Caitlin, wait up. Hurry up, Sarah Faye, she said with a giggle that held a hint of evilness in it. She knows how much I hate my middle name. Why couldn't my mom name me Sarah Elizabeth? Sarah's middle name is Elizabeth. It's what makes us different, that she has red hair and freckles. Well, I have brown hair and blue eyes. Okay, Katie Lynn, I say back. She hates that name. Sarah Faye, Katie Lynn, Sarah Faye, Katie Lynn, Sarah Faye, Katie Lynn. I stopped dead in my tracks. Kyle was outside with his basketball. He's my heartthrob. Forget Lance Bass. I want Kyle. Ooh, Sarah and Kyle sitting in a tree. Caitlin starts to sing when she sees him. Shush up, I say to Caitlin, walking up the sidewalk to Allison's house and ringing the doorbell. Does he see me? Do I look okay? I ask. Allison's mom answers the door and invites us inside. We walk straight to Allison's room where they are playing a game. They jump up and we all hug each other tightly because that's what best friends do. Guess who's outside? Caitlin says. Kyle, the others say in unison. My cheeks turn red. Sarah says to me, when is he going to be your boyfriend? I don't know. When he wants to be, I said, although I really hoped it would be now rather than later. I have no idea, Allison said. I have an idea, Allison said, sorry. We whispered together. I wasn't too sure, but the plan was set in motion and there was no stopping us now. Calmly, maybe too calmly, we walked down the hall and waved to Allison's mom. She asked where we were going, and Allison told her my house. It wasn't exactly a lie. We eventually get there. Then we split up. Two girls ran after Kyle, starting the game of chase. I ran off towards my house, the final destination. He would end up there. We ran around the houses, through the streets, until I saw him cut through the houses and dart into my alley. I corralled him into my backyard. Cinnamon, my beloved beagle, sniffed at him and licked him with approval. Good. I needed her to like all of my boyfriends, and Kyle would be my boyfriend. As I drove Kyle inside by the hand, Allison, Caitlin, and Sarah watched. We all went to my room and sat him down in the new desk chair my parents bought me for being a third grader, since I was now old enough to do homework in my room by myself. Kyle squirmed as we held him down and then tied him up with the Winnie the Pooh sheets off of my bed. Okay, you caught me. Now what? He asked. We want to make you pretty, Allison said. With my allowance, I had just bought a new makeup set. All sorts of bright colors of eyeshadow, eyeliners, lipsticks, nail polishes. It's the works, and I loved it. We went to work. He didn't make it easy. Why are you doing this? He asked. We didn't have an answer. It was just fun. Well, for us, maybe not for him. He figured that out too, I guess, because eventually he did stop and began laughing with us, asking us to make him look real nice. We decided to do his face in pink eyeshadow, pink lipstick, pink glitter, pink eyeliner, and to top it all off, pink blush. We had all agreed that pink went nicely with his blonde hair. When he was done, we let him know because we thought we were going to get him into one of my dresses. But he burst out the door and ran from home. My friends looked at me and shrugged. If he doesn't know you love him now, he never will, Allison said. Yeah, there's only one reason a girl shares her makeup, and that's if it's true love, or with her best friends, Sarah added. We burst out into laughter and then did our own makeovers. Part 3, it's called Best Most Romantic Love Song Ever. I jumped up and down on the small bed in Caitlin's bright yellow room. Do it, she said, handing me the phone. But then he'll know, I said. He already knows. But I really like him. Do you think he'll go out with me? If I call, he'll go out with me, right? Of course he will. But what if he doesn't hear it? I asked her. That was a very good question, considering the boys probably don't listen to the Delilah show. Just do it. Then I'll call him and tell him to listen. Then he'll have to go out with you. Caitlin was a very demanding best friend, but she always had my best interest at heart, so I took the phone from her and dialed the toll-free number. The phone beeped. It's busy. Well, duh. She's like the best woman on the planet. Everyone wants to talk to her. Try again. I dialed the number again. This time the phone rang. It rang and rang for endless minutes, as the butterflies danced in my stomach and made me want to vomit. Then a voice said, "Hello, the Delilah show." I froze. What to say now? Could I even say anything? I mean, it's the Delilah show. But it just came out. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I would like to tell Kyle that I love him and then on the show and dedicate a song to him. Please. How old are you? The man on the other end asked. I'm 8, I said proudly. One moment, please. Delilah will talk to you shortly. I let out a shriek, and Caitlin pressed her ear up against mine so that she could listen on the phone. We bounced up and down, sitting on the edge of her bed, until finally we heard a voice. Her voice. But this time it wasn't coming from our radio. She was talking to us, on the phone. We have a special caller tonight on the phone who wants to dedicate a song to the boy she loves. Hello? Hello? I answer, over Caitlin's muffled snickers. Why don't you tell us about your boy, Sarah? Again, I paused. She knew my name. Almost without any control at all, I began to blurt out everything that I loved about Kyle, from his blonde hair to his blue eyes to the way he laughed, to his stupid gap teeth, to how much I imagined him being my boyfriend someday. Occasionally she would ask me a question and I would reply, and after what seemed like no time at all, she finally asked me the question. What song would you like to play for Kyle? This was the moment. I had to think of the world's best, most romantic love song that I could, and then it hit me. My heart will go on, I replied, because what could be more romantic than the love story from Titanic?